Hey, what's going on, Natty Dads? I wanted to bring a topic to your attention because I think there's a lot of shame that comes with gaining weight back after you've lost it. Maybe you're somebody who's lost weight in the past and you've gained it back, and you might feel really bad about that. You might feel defeated. You might feel like it's your fault. I'm here to tell you that based on science, it's actually not your fault. In fact, there are so many genetic factors and hormones that work extremely hard, that have tons of experience, whose only job is to get you back to what's called your weight set point. So we're going to dive into that a little bit here in this video. And what I'm going to do with this video is try to just explain why your natural ability to gain weight back after you lose it is not some sort of shortcoming of you. It's not something that you should feel shameful for. It's actually the natural process of how our bodies adapt to weight loss. So a little bit of context here. Your body's main goal is homeostasis. And there's something in your brain, sort of this thermostat, and it has a set point. And what it says essentially is, I need to stay between this weight to be in homeostasis. So let's use a 200-pound dad, for example. Let's say at your leanest, you were 200 pounds, okay? And let's say as you became a dad, you got up into the 220s, 230s, 240s, and right now you're 250. And you've been 250 for about 3 years now. If that's you, your body weight set point is different than it was when you were 200. Your body's weight set point when you were 200 was probably like between 190 and 210. So about a 20-pound range. And your body was comfortable there. You could lose 10 pounds, it'd be all right. You could gain 10 pounds, it would be just fine. But now you're 250. So now your weight set point range has changed. It's between maybe 240 and 260. So if you try to get below 240, your body's gonna start freaking out. Let's say you get to 229. You are struggling to keep that weight off. You feel like you're always hungry all the time. You can't seem to feel full after meals. Maybe things just get out of hand. You start to stress eat. Maybe there's just a lot of things that could happen, and your weight goes back up to that 250. You could very easily feel very guilty for that and feel like, I'm a failure. I can't believe that this happened to me. I couldn't keep the weight off, so on and so forth. The only way in which you can reset your set point, or recalibrate it is probably a better way to think about that, is to maintain the weight that you lost for a relatively long period of time. Research shows anywhere between 1 to 3 years. So you'd have to maintain that weight for 1 to 3 years. And even then, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen productively for yourself. Now, with things like body recomposition, meaning that you're going from a ratio of fat to muscle mass that's obviously different than it was before. So you have more muscle mass, less fat mass, and being able to maintain that over time is going to make recalibrating your set point a little bit easier. So it's not all doom and gloom, but as the research stands right now, the ability to gain weight after you lose it is almost indefinite. Like, it's definitely going to happen to some extent. The way in which we control that is through our behaviors, obviously, but also through our environment. So making sure that the environment that we use to help us lose weight is the same environment that we're using to maintain our weight. And I would even argue that maintaining your weight is much more important because it's actually a lot harder. Losing weight can be relatively easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can be a struggle and a grind, and it can be difficult in its own way, but it's relatively simple, and most of us can sort of bear down and get gritty with it and really make sure that we lose the weight that we're trying to lose. Maintaining that weight loss is much harder because hormones are in a much different place. They're in an emergency mode. Your brain kind of looks at this like an emergency to gain weight, because you got to remember, your brain doesn't know that it's the 21st century. It doesn't know it's 2025. It doesn't know there's food in every street corner. It doesn't realize what's going on in the outside world. All it knows is it senses that its body fat mass, its most important survival resource, is being depleted, and is much lower than it was before. So that's what the set point is. When you get below a certain amount of body fat, your body starts to freak out, because again, it'd be the same way as if, like, I was to take $200 out of your savings account every day. Probably the first day you would be alarmed, but over time it would be an emergency situation where you'd have to then call your bank and be like, hey, someone's siphoning money out of my savings account. It works very similar to that. So just keep that in mind when you are thinking about losing weight and gaining it back, or not think about gaining it back, but if it does happen. I do want to provide a couple of tips just for what you can do to reduce how much weight you gain back. So the only way that I've personally had success with this is keeping a very close eye on my calorie intake. Now, I don't always do it by just looking at strict numbers, but I I start there in most cases, and then I start to ease up once I get my meals dialed in. Because once you get the behaviors and the habits and you have a better idea of which foods are going to put you in a position where you don't have to think about them so much, but eating them is going to help keep your calorie totals a lot lower and in the right ratios for macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. Once you get that dialed in, which honestly probably only takes about 2 weeks, if you stay in that meal range, if you kind of understand what your food is supposed to look like each day, then it gets a lot easier to maintain that. You can have these go-to meals that's like a protein, a carb, and a veggie. And within, portions, relative portions, you kind of understand, okay, this is how much of this is how much of that, this is how much of that, and you stay within that range. And you're not being perfect, but you're also not going overboard. And that's where a lot of dads get in trouble. It's not the one day that they might go out to eat for dinner. It's the multiple days, it's the multiple weekends, it's the eating the excess portion or having a second portion when you really don't need one, like you could be satisfied on a single portion, things like that. So keeping that in mind. So I like to dial in calories first, and then I start to ease up once I get that kind of habit going again. Because that's really how I use calorie tracking. And if I'm not doing experiments for myself or I'm not trying new things, I really use calories tracking as a way to simply just recalibrate things and then ease up by just understanding these meals are best for me and keeping my calories in a good range, not over consuming calories. My biggest issue with consuming calories is I have a very high food drive. You might be a similar dad who loves food. You get a very high dopamine rush from food. Maybe you really look forward to meals, trying new food, that kind of thing. I love going to a new restaurant and trying something or finding a new spot in my hometown, that kind of thing. So I get it. I get why that could be really easy. Plus, as a dad, you're probably eating leftovers. You're trying not to waste food. Things like that can also make it difficult to think about your macronutrients and your own goals when you're trying to save money on food that you just bought and it's like, well, nobody's eating it. I don't want this to go to waste. I totally get that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is doable and you can manage it. At least I've been able to, and I think it just takes a little bit of extra effort. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Wanted that video to get out there. Thanks a ton for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, I would highly recommend it because I feel like, at least from what I've been able to see on the internet, this is the most real, down-to-earth, sort of raw view of what it's like to be a dad and try to manage all the things you need to do with your fitness and your nutrition. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, or anything that you want help with, put it in the comment section down below of any video. I check every day to see if there's new comments to answer questions or help any other dads that are in a similar position who want to lose body fat, feel healthier, and go from their dad bod to a father figure. Thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you in a future video.